Hey, good. I was about to say good evening. I've been making all my videos, my talking, what I call talking head videos, in the evening. But here we are. We just got back from going down to To Be Gone. We had a drive, and we went down and had in time for breakfast at McDonald's. Yes, I know it's not healthy, and you're absolutely right. What can I say? The first thing that I see when I open my iPhone, which is what I work from, is a letter that was sent to me from Doug. I don't think that Doug would mind me reading it to him, because he said this is the only way, because the comments are disabled. So apparently he would have said what he said, whether it was public or not. Anyway, Doug. He says, Terence, I can't find a better place to comment, so I'll do it here. See what I mean? I love you guys and entertain myself for hours watching your videos. I miss Alfred though. Will he be back? At first, I just wanted to kick his old wrinkled German butt down the road and say goodbye, but he kind of grows on you after a while. That's true. Anyway, my brother lives in Germany, so I've been there many times. I find them unlikable at first, and they probably find me the same, very honest. But after a while, let me see, after being around them a while, they kind of grow on you. That's what we found too. If Alfred is anything to go by, they're very straightforward, say things exactly as they want them to be heard and not pussyfoot around. Anyway, it says, anyway, the reason I write is that I've been married to a Filipina since 2003. Well done. I've been trying to teach her the fine points of English. Do you ever do the same with your lovely bride? It's like hot needles. It's like hot needles in my eyes when I read some of this. You don't shop a new truck. You don't test drive on a truck. You don't buy a cheap land. You don't shop our dream car. You shop for it. It may seem petty, but it is my language, and it was yours before it was mine. Well, that's probably very true, since I usually end up being the oldest person around. So, Alfred is here. He is back. He is getting his life sorted out with Talia. He has asked us not to do any videos, which we understand and we respect. But I did say to him, people will want to know about you. Now, he doesn't want his life to be spread out on the internet, which we respect. But I will say this, he's doing fine. He is putting his life together, and that's as much as I think that we can reasonably say. He's doing okay. Don't worry about Alfred, because I'm sure that he will do just great. What about the rest? Finer points of English. Now, I tell you what I think about this, and it borders, it touches on something that I've thought for a while. It's just my humble little theory, but it seems to hold true for me. People are influenced, they're almost programmed according to the country that they come from. So if you're Scottish, you have a certain kind of programming. If you're English, another kind of programming. Welsh, another. Irish, another. American, another. So the English, Irish, Scots and so on, that would come under British, although the Irish, the Welsh and the Scots would protest that a lot, since they have their own sense of nationality. But they all of them are particularly programmed in a way. Now, when I say programmed, right, I'm not talking about someone being I don't know, brainwashed. I'm not talking about that. It's just that there are certain characteristics that come about depending on where you come from. Now, my youngest son went to America in 1992 when we both went. I took my son Luke, he went to America. Within 3 months he was American, okay? But he does have, as his basic personality, he does have the English Filipino vein in there somewhere. There's something that affects the psyche depending on what your history is. Right, but Americans are a certain kind of people. When they were polled, they did some research and they polled the American excuse me, the American education system, and Americans came second to the top. Don't know who was top. Second to the top in confidence, but about 17th from the top when it came to the quality of their education. Now, I can't argue about the whether they're the most confident, because I do find that Americans are supremely confident, bordering for some on arrogance. This is only my opinion, and I spent 20 years or so in America. Now, they have these ways of behaving which are uniquely American. Now, I don't want this to be all about Americans, because it misses the point of what I was actually trying to say. Depending on where you come from, you will have certain characteristics, and one of the characteristics of being an American is that you are supremely confident. Now, I'll tell you something that would reinforce that idea, is that when Chinese people came to study in America, if they were going to try to exist, to survive within the American culture, the universities that were training them, that were teaching them, teaching, it's about the same thing, they had to have a special counselor that taught them more about confidence. Now, in the eyes of the Chinese, that confidence bordered on arrogance. Okay? And they had to teach them to do that. For instance, if a Chinese person went for a job and they told him or her, this is what the job entails, what would your feelings be on that? The Chinese person would say, very modestly, yes, I think that I can probably do that. Given the chance and the training, I can do that. Now, if an American was asked, just by the sheer pressures of how he's been brought up, he would say, I can do that job better than anybody else. I'll be goddamn good at that job, in fact. That's how they would do it. A British person would behave in a much different way. A British person would say, yes, yes, I believe that I can do that. The reason is that when my wife has finished making a noise outside the room, the reason, say, for the British, and the difference between the British and the French and the Americans, if an American went for a job in Britain, right, he would go in and he would do his thing. Yes, I can do that. I think I can do that probably better than anybody else. I'm more qualified. I can do it. Just leave it to me. I'll do a damn good job. And then the British, supposing he got the job, the British would quietly, sneakily sit back and say, let's just see him fall on his face, and be happy when he did it. Kind of a sneaky, but if he did as he job, as he said he would, they'd say, well, he said he could do it and he did, and now he's doing a great job, which is wonderful. If they were asked themselves, as I said, they would not be so forthright, because they would almost be concerned that if they did put a foot wrong, once they'd given such a great glowing self-testimonial of themselves, everybody would be laughing at them, and that certainly wouldn't do if they were British. a friend of mine who was British and lived in California, she used to have a sign on her refrigerator that said, "It's hard to be humble when you're British," which says it all. So an Australian will be uniquely Australian, and he won't be the same as everybody else. And anybody that goes and lives in Australia, if they live there long enough, New Zealand, Australia, any of those other countries where people like me and my friend Michael went to New Zealand, and in his way, underneath all of the British upbringing, he has become uniquely New Zealand. And my other friends, I've had friends who have gone to live in France, and they, in a slightly changed way, they become slightly less British and slightly more French. It just seems to be a thing. Now, it's taken me a long time to get there, but in answer to our friend Doug, who wrote the letter, you remember the letter, don't you, some time ago, he said, "Am I able to teach the finer points of English to Beth?" Now, one of the things that I find that is characteristic of the Filipino people, and this provides a lot of friction and challenge to any foreigner that comes over here, and that is that they, underneath it all, they are fiercely Filipino. And the downside of that is that they resent and resist being told what to do, even if it is in pursuit of doing something better. They have, believe me, they have their ways of doing things. And if you're a builder and you come over here and you say, "Well, I don't think much of the brickwork," well, you may not think much of the brickwork, but for instance, the house that my mother-in-law lived in up until maybe a year ago, when we built her a new one, it stood up on typhoon after typhoon and was still there. Despite anything that you as a skilled mason may criticize in terms of the building blocks that they use, it works. They have a system which works. Now, the other side of that hard-headedness, what I think of as hard-headedness, and what every other expat that I've spoken to refers to as hard-headedness, stubbornness, is this: they will be able to smile in the face of such adversity as foreigners would simply run away and go home with their tail between their legs. And Filipinos won't. They will stay and they'll get the job done. Not like you or I as foreigners would think, but they'll do it. And here's the difference: they'll do it with a smile on their face. Now, I've tried to say this before. Doug, you may have found this as well. Stop thinking about whether they have decided not to further their education in spite of what you and I and our native language would like to perfect them on. They've decided not to pursue that. But here's the other thing that they are so skilled at, which I have yet to really hear a foreigner understand, and that is non-confrontation. Now, obviously, if you pee off enough a Filipino, you will come in for it, okay? Because once they've been riled, they can be pretty fierce enemies, I can tell you, and they will sort you out, as a few people that I know of have found. Now, the other thing would be that they don't attach the same rigid importance to small things. Remember that. Sorry, somebody is calling me. Alfred. Well, I had an interruption and my train of thought is completely shot. So if this is a disjointed break, please excuse it. But what I was really trying to say is that the Filipino has worked out how to avoid the small things. They don't sweat the small things. Remember George Carlin said, don't sweat the small things. That was good advice, because I've noticed, just to give you a quick example and then I'll finish, because I already have gone on for quite a time on this and it was only intended to be short, and actually I don't know what the word short means when it comes to videos and talks. Well, on a Sunday I take everybody down to church and I am the driver and I wait for everybody to be ready. Now, when I first came here, in my rigid Western way, I would be saying, excuse me, it's 8 o'clock and we leave at 8 o'clock. And everybody would smile and say, yes, yes. And then we'd wait. And we'd wait a bit longer, and we'd wait a bit longer. And then it was a matter of me beginning to have steam coming out of my ears. But it's 8:15 and we're supposed to leave at 8 o'clock. Yes, yes, they'd say. It's okay. And then everybody would be in the truck. Everybody except one person. Well, where is she? Well, she's getting changed. Getting changed, I would say. It's 8:20. We're supposed to leave at 8. We'll go without her. That'll teach her a lesson. No, don't do that. After a while, I exteriorized. I learned to do this. I exteriorized from the situation. And I viewed myself from 100 yards away, looking at a truck that was loaded with happy, smiling people who were joking and waiting patiently for one of the family to finish changing. And in the middle of that, I would see a dark cloud. And that dark cloud would be, guess who? The only dark cloud. You ever remember in the Peanuts cartoon, Pigpen? Pigpen was the little boy that was so dirty. Swirling around his head was clouds of dust. Well, think of that as clouds of energy, of frustration, of, gosh darn it, everybody's late. Ness. And that was me. And I realized that, what am I saying that this is so important for? Nobody else was bothered. We got to church later. Nobody rushed out giving citations for being late. Nobody told us we were tardy, as the Americans say. Nobody told us anything. We just arrived and people said good morning. After a while, I learned. And now, I don't even start getting ready until 5 to 8. When I get down there, 8:20. And that same person is just getting changed. But now, it's okay. Do they have the right grammar? No. Do they know past tense and future? No. Do they know what comes first or what comes later? No. But do they care? Yes. So, Doug, pins in the eyes, needles in the eyes. I understand. But you're the one, I'm the one, we were the ones who got the needles out of the case and stuck them in our own eyes. Nobody else did it. And that's one of the biggest challenges that foreigners have when they come over here. And that is working out what is a mountain and what is a molehill. Pretty well most of it is all molehills. Thanks for looking in. Bye for now.